Capcom has some heavy hitting announcements with Capcom Fighting Collection 2 coming out in 2025 and Marvel vs. Capcom Collection coming out very soon. Now there's massive things on how this changes everything when it comes to the fighting games ecosystem, how it inspires people, how it can become dedicated to these servers to help with actual OG players, people that were in generations that were just far back, arcade back in my day, and really meshing in with newer generation type players that never really experienced the arcade era. So you got to recognize when you see these games, and if you're somebody my age, you might just look at it as just like another old game or another old classic type game. But when you look at it as a new generation type player, you can see all the great classics that still really hold ground to this day. These fighting collections are huge. Now, this is not just the only thing that's been happening, right? You have SNK, like City of the Wolves. Then you have CVS2 in this collection, the Capcom Fighting Collection. Then you also had like 2XKO. Then you also have like MK1, Tekken 8. You have all these games. And I don't know if it's something that everyone's kind of cool, because you got to recognize that fighting games are very niche. So it's either something that fighting games are really kind of in communication, I would say, in where they all just want everyone to be successful. It seems like, because you see Ed Boon on Twitter, you also see him showing a lot of love to Tekken. You also know that Tekken's going to be showing love to Mortal Kombat. They're cool with each other also. And Capcom and SNK, those type of deliverables are insane because they are working together. They are doing complete crossovers. Wait until we see like an actual Street Fighter character in City of the Woods, which is most likely going to happen. If it doesn't happen like somewhat at launch, it's going to happen within some time post-launch, right? And from what we know, these games are going to be incredible because even the City of the Wolves still looks like it's maintaining that art format that we're all familiar with. And these games are actually very active, right? Like you got to understand that they clearly announced that these games are going to have some active servers. They're going to be having casual matches, ranked matches, custom matches, and high score challenge. It is not meant to be cross-platform yet, so PC is going to be playing against PC and consoles going to be playing against console. But here's the main thing that really inspires me, or at least I think they're going to kind of see just like the feedback of this and see how these collections right here are going to get, so it's up to us as supporters as a OG era, because I come from arcade era, and I know a lot of people in my comments previously have talked about being in the arcade era also. So I come from Ultimate MK3, where I always saw like Tekken Tag also on the side. You obviously saw Street Fighter 2, and then you saw Alpha around like just multiple years where you saw multitudes of games. But for me, it was always Ultimate MK3. And this arcade era, you're bringing it back literally at the comfort of your home without having to purchase these things, unless you just love nostalgia stuff, right? Like if you like old school stuff, you like antiques, of course you're gonna buy yourself an arcade setup, but you're not going to need anything but arcade setup. You could buy yourself a nice snack box or a hit box or anything, and you could play these games now, and it's going to be active, so you don't have to be physically next to anybody anymore, and it doesn't have to just be an emulator playing against AI. And for me, I use emulation a lot to play a lot of these older games, and so when I see this now that I'm actually going to be able to like challenge against other people, that's massive. In my opinion, that's so massive. Now, some people are going to have a huge head start, especially legacy players of these OG games, against newcomers. But this brings on a whole generation, and it brings on the OG generation. So this changes everything. Well, how does it change everything? It inspires other games. There's no doubt in my mind that other games are going to take notice of this and be like, damn, like Capcom's doing all these collections. It's doing great. They're bringing back servers. And this right here can be a whole packaged thing to possibly announce something insane like Marvel vs. Capcom 4, or maybe an insane crossover coming up in the next year for Street Fighter 6. We don't know, right? There's only so much data mines can do. But this is huge for that. Can you imagine if Mortal Kombat, turns around, maybe NetherRealm eventually parts from WB, which is usually the rumor right now, and what's going on still towards maybe more of that validated and verified source, that NetherRealm, at least Warner Brothers, is looking what to do with their IPs in terms of gaming. They're not really interested in that gaming perspective right now. And so now you got Mortal Kombat 3 with tons of creativity if they can get out of the Warner Brothers situation. I feel that is far more limited And so if Mortal Kombat can get back to its creative roots, maybe, just maybe, they can do something with classics. Mortal Kombat classics would go insane. Capcom classics, these are great. The Capcom classics, the Marvel, the MVC collection, these are going to be insane by far because they're active games. And can you imagine like an MK2, Ultimate MK3, and like MK9 collection? And you have, like what I said in my other video also, if you didn't check out the previous video, check it out. We did a lot more breaking down, but in highlight, just like have a Shaolin monks in there, just kind of the same way that Capcom has all like types of games in there, and you could have some spin-offs of Mortal Kombat and all that in that collection. That's just one genre it could inspire. And then you got like Killer Instinct, and then you got every other niche fighting game there is in totality. Like imagine just like Dragon Ball, the Budokai series, you know, remastered and on a collection with active servers. These are games that are monumental to fighting era. Fighting games, at least for the most part, unless you're Mortal Kombat, cough, they keep their mechanics at least the same, or at least a lot of the identity the same, to where it's like if you learn a few of these games, you're definitely gonna at least have somewhat of a higher ground against other people who are just completely new to not just fighting games, but just to these titles, certain titles. And so Mortal Kombat has just changed their shit in like the last 4 years. We don't know what's going on with that. That's why we're begging for a collection. MK1 still does solid, and there's a lot of loyal people that really defend MK1 even in its utmost flawed state right now. Despite it having tons of content, it's still a very flawed game, and people are still defending this. If we had games that actually made Mortal Kombat, hence the movies that were made based off of these games, which was like Ultimate MK3, maybe MK2 Classic, and then maybe this MK1, I don't know, just anything that really made these games. These are the ones that like we are begging for and should be looked towards when you see games like Capcom Fighting Collection going on a part 2. Capcom Fighting Collection is going on a part 2 in like what, 3 years, 2 years, 2.5 years. That's very soon to announce and to bring upon a active Fighting Collection part 2, right? I could only imagine, because when Mega Man X Collection and all that released, man, I was so excited. The Mega Man Collection in totality, I was so excited. So you got to be giving props to that. On top of that, they have their training mode. The Capcom Fighting Collection does 100% confirm that they're gonna have a training mode where you're choosing a character in the stage and practicing special moves and combos, and you're also gonna have your inputs, your damage display, and hitboxes. That's a full-on aspect of what's going down in games. And then on top of all of that, like what I said, you have like SNK, like City of the Wolves coming around. These fighting games are going to be very, very golden. And I could only imagine like a Killer Instinct Classic. I could only imagine a Mortal Kombat Classic. Another like, even just branching off from just a Capcom Fighting Collection, go into just a straight Street Fighter active collection. Like this is insane. Any other like just fighting franchises, you know, Soul Calibur, just anything that can make a lot of these collections is pretty cool if you have them active. If you're a fighting gamer and a true fighting gamer, you know exactly how passionate I'm sounding right now through this sound that you're hearing, because fighting games already go into so much of a niche. So it's up to us as a community to be like, yes, we need this. I had been begging for games like this, collections and eras where they were just so amazing, because this can eventually lead to, one, mainstreaming the genre, two, bringing just a massive audience, like especially if it comes down to esports, or like in recent times the announcements for the Olympics. These are all huge cadences to be like, hey, like this is how much people love these games. Don't just throw up an FPS game all day on an esports stage, or like on an Olympic stage, you know, because I did make a video about the Olympics, and I know a lot of people would rather prefer like Dota or FPS games versus just fighting games, which is very niche, which is very understandable because the audience, well, what can help audiences at least bring back casual fighting game audiences is a lot more of these classic releases. These are what people used to play, at least my age. And then the new generation can get to learn like how these games were actually implemented back then, and they're going to be very familiar with them. Like if you play Tekken 8 now, you'll be very familiar with Tekken 7. Although it doesn't have everything, it still has the core fundamentals of it. So that's that when it comes to just collections, awareness, audiences, marketing, and also helping out it's like a double dip because now Capcom gets all these collections, and then they got the actual like SNK crossover with Terry, and then they also just have Street Fighter 6 in totality being the #1 competitive game, at least when it comes to entries for EVO, which was the most popular fighting game esports event in history. Not just a fighting game though, like an actual just esports in totality, but I just label it as fighting game, of course, because that's what EVO is known for. But it's the biggest esports in history, and the #1 game that had all the signups was Street Fighter 6. So Capcom killing it. Capcom's killing it with this. And then we had the Olympics announcements, and then we also have Tekken right around that corner too of the second most entries. And this is what I'm saying, because these games are so loved. Can you imagine a Tekken Classic Collection? That would be insane. To have Tekken Tag 1 and 2 active with servers playing against people, that's crazy. That's crazy. Come on, tell me when I'm telling lies. Can somebody tell me when I'm telling lies? Having Tekken Tag 2, and you can just put any other installment that was the favorite. What was it, like Tekken 3? Probably a lot of favorites. Yeah, y'all would have to just school me on that. But Tekken Tag 1 and 2 is something I would be so down for, right? Or anything else. Maybe a Super Smash Bros. Fighting collection with all active servers. Can you imagine Super Smash Bros. Melee? Melee was so goated, bro. With the active server? Are you kidding me? So like these games like that are remastered and having an active server with practice and all that stuff. Like there's just so much. Just all these titles that I'm naming all across the board is just, it shows the massive inspiration that Capcom is doing with these collections, especially these collections being announced so near and dear each other. On top of them working with SNK, on top of just Street Fighter 6 still completely active, doing so much stuff, on top of Tekken and Mortal Kombat being completely active this year, on top of all them being released within 11 months, we got 3 of the biggest titles in fighting game history. Like, let me really say that near and dear truly to my heart. I have been alive for so damn long. I'm old. But when I see that fighting games were just so amazing back then, especially classics that I'm talking about this whole freaking video, and to have all these games released within an 11-month span, and Street Fighter 6, then MK1, then Tekken 8, is insane. And then in between you have all these fighting games with collections and all that stuff, and then you have the new Dragon Ball game coming around. Maybe they can look into that. And then this Capcom collection can have marketing for possible, now this is a long shot, but Marvel vs. Capcom 4, like, you just never know. But it's up to us as fighting game enthusiasts and fans to continuously push this market. And that's what I make this channel for, man. So if y'all are interested in more content like this, man, I love to read your comments. I love to be involved. I appreciate anyone subscribing or giving a thumbs up, because the essence of these games and fighting games, there's something to it that makes it so damn fun. I've been playing Tekken 8 so much, and it just continuously gets far more fun every time I play. Frustrating at times, but it's definitely fun, the learning curve, man. Y'all let me know y'all's thoughts. I appreciate y'all, man. Peace.